Hey, Amber, could you put your mute button on? Nice to see you.
That was an interesting sound, though. I was kind of getting into the groove
It
of that.
was. I was about to go into hypnagogic trance.
Okay, thank you once again, everybody, for being here. And I know you're all in different time zones, and for some people it's convenient. For some folks, you're staying up late, and I certainly appreciate that. And I also hope that you enjoyed episode one. And to recap, I chose that topic with episode one as just to kind of brush the surface of bioterrain concepts and also to hopefully impart some practical information of things that you can do, being that the adrenal glands are such a fundamental part of our bodies and make such a difference in our health. Every single episode, and there will be 12 episodes, by the way, there will be some spin offs of that. Um, every episode will build on the last one. And to repeat also, I am doing this because there are a number of bioterrain discussions going on out there. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I have my own perspective, just more from a clinician who learned from some amazing people that are no longer with us. And those people were mostly in the European physician community. And what was nice is back in the 70s, when I first started making some of these contacts, these guys were in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and I was just a young kid. But they still had their background in old European traditional medicine, and it was before the European system threw out the baby with the bathwater. And they were very well versed in the alchemical sciences, which they understood as real science. They were well versed in anthroposophical medicine and radiesthesia, a number of other things. And when you really understand those disciplines, they're not just interesting talking points, they have fantastic practical application value. And my interest in doing this is I think bioterrain as a concept has been greatly limited to talking about microbes and looking at things under microscopes and debating whether germs cause disease and and then some very valuable information about treat the body, not the disease. So it's all fantastic stuff, and we will include all of these things, as well as every episode will have self-help, because I don't want this just to be an academic exercise. Those kind of things drive me nuts, when I go through the end of something and then there was, okay, we talked about what do we do with this stuff. So I'll always make this grounded and down to earth. But the part that may not seem grounded initially, and that will be some of the understandings that we really have to entertain that bring bioterrain medicine out of the superstition of materialism, because there's one inescapable fact, and that is energy creates matter and matter follows energy. And that simple truth is observable to anybody who cares to open their eyes, but it has escaped the understanding of our most esteemed practitioners and even some of us on the alternative side. So if we go into bioterrain concepts and fail to understand how our body, how the tissues of our body materialized into a physical form in the first place, then we're stuck in the matrix of materialism, and we're very limited as far as options we can exercise to take care of ourselves. Uh, Practitioners, of course, are really going to be at a loss as well. So tonight we're going to entertain a discussion on the most important organ of our body, which is blood. And the good thing about blood is that it's the living record of our entire existence. Since we incarnated into a physical form and however many embodiments we've gone through, it's all there. And it creates not just a recording, but an imprint within every new embodiment that will keep playing out the same tapes. Now, unbeknownst to most of us, if we understand where those recordings are, then we can make changes in our physical body while we're also supporting on the physical level and renew our body in a way that wouldn't be possible in the next moment unless we erased those tapes and, rewrote the script. So that's what tonight is about. I would beg your patience when we get into some discussions initially that are going to, maybe get into new concepts. We're a pretty advanced audience here, so I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with it. But there might be some terminology borrowed from anthroposophical medicine, from alchemy, from waveform mechanics. But what we'll do is kind of give the cliff notes. And then I want to remind you that everything that we start with is going to get to the blood and why the heck we're interested in the first place. And more importantly, finally, what we can do about it. So I am going to do a share screen. We're going to get into it. Hopefully this will go a little smoother than last time. And Abe, if you're unmuted, you can just perhaps give me a little verbal that we're seeing it properly.
Now it looks amazing, Bear. It's almost as good looking as you.
Actually, that is me in, when I was in
Oh
grade
yeah, that
school.
was when you were doing your Cabbage Patch doll thing in
Actually, that
Colorado,
was
right?
when I was in grade school. You
Yeah.
had to
Hey,
shave it
I
away.
had a full beard in grade school too.
I like the hair on your ears.
Thank you.
Patrick and Kathy, hello. Susan Lee in Nevada City. I just texted you.
Now, Bear, it went small again, so
Yeah, I got that.
copy.
So let's try. Okay, that got even smaller. Even says zoom in. I'll get it. Getting closer. Amazing. Okay. I think we got it. And then Abe, just holler if things change on your end for me. That would be amazing. And some folks are still trying to get in, so hang on. Okay, blood, seed to soul. So the first concept we have to get is that of a seed atom, and we'll get into that right away and what that means. So let me just paraphrase as I go here. Blood is the first and primary organ to initiate the embryological unfoldment of a newborn embarking on a human journey. A study of blood from a bioterrain perspective reveals a purpose far beyond transporting nutrients and oxygen to bodily tissues. Blood is a living recording of the ancestral memories, karmic imprints, and experiences accumulated across countless incarnations.
Oh, well, I lost it.
So, if you recall, last time we talked about keeping our conversation within a context of the four pillars. And the four pillars are the classical education foundationals that science should really be including in any discussion of any natural phenomena. And without repeating those, let's just go down the list as far as how this is going to relate to a discussion on blood. I'm still admitting people, so forgive me. So singularity, which is under the category of mathematics, that's just the concept that, okay, everything starts with a sentient conscious conceiving an idea or a thought. That creates the initial spark. And that initiates the entire creation cycle. That then creates a resonance that is creates a geometry, a three-dimensional kind of affair, as if you will, and then that also sets waveforms in motion that coagulate into the final. Okay, still admitting into the final precipitation of matter, including our bodies. So with singularity, seed to soul, we're going to talk about the seed atom first and explain to you what that is. We're going to talk about how that seed atom, which is the living memory of everything about you, is activated therically to start the whole re-embodiment process. Geometry is how this now is through morphological fields. It comes into an embryological evolution through motion and how organs are created through that, and then how distortions in that motion that we call emotion will have an effect on us, and a lot of them are in fact tapes playing from different times that are part of that recording in the seed atom. And then synchronization, which is what the old alchemists related to as above, so below. That means, okay, how do we sync up with those original innate patterns where everything is perfection with no problems? And that's where we get into some of our practical application measures. Okay, next slide. Seed to soul. The seed atom is the information, elements, and sustaining nutrients that grow a mature tree from a tiny acorn that are not in the seed itself. I think some folks out there are still trying to figure out where's all the stuff that makes a mighty oak grow, within the acorn. Well, it isn't in there. That is actually a portal into the etheric memory that has all the informational fields that will be activated in a proper way on the physical level in order for a tree to grow. It's the same thing with our bodies. The seed atom is a portal into the Akashic records of our being. And on a level of consciousness that we all at different times are in touch with, but we tend to get amnesia once we embody, we set out an intention to have another go around. And then that's where that seed atom is activated, just like a seed of a plant or a tree, and we start the whole thing. So the coalescence of a new human form begins with the activation of the seed atom, a literal portal to the composite experience of the soul. Now, etheric activation involves precisely encoded waveforms creating a
On the
morphogenic
output, you
field.
search store.
What we're going to do is take you step by step on how that happens. It'll get a little bit nerdy at times, but we'll quickly bring that into a grounded state so you can see how that relates to the blood, what we're talking about tonight. And dimensionality, in other words, taking a multidimensional form from an etheric record into our physical existence, is a process. And it's where singularity is achieved by way of developing the golden mean. Now, there's a lot of terminologies that you've all heard. One is the 3 times 3, and Walter Russell, Nikola Tesla, talked about this. Great. So what exactly does that mean? If we're understanding that if a consciousness conceives a thought, it's an electrical event, simply put. But it creates a 9-faceted phenomena. And here's how it works. Sacred geometry, which a lot of us have studied, we look at cubes and spheres and, polygons and things. Those are actual things. They aren't just symbolic. And if you understand the resonance that's created from an idea or a thought form, and we've talked about cymatics, where different tonal fields and so forth will create geometric structures, and that's demonstrated wonderfully even in a lot of YouTube videos. The same thing happens with our thoughts, and if a thought has certain nuances and intentions, then it's going to create very elaborate informational fields that will eventually play out into what we intend to create. An initial thought on the mental plane has always been depicted as the male essence or a cube, but that resonance is literally creating a cube. Again, it's not symbolic, it's creating that shape. Not like there's a cube floating out in outer space somewhere, but it creates the geometry in an etheric form. And then the information that we are intending to bring into manifestation bounces off of the 6 inner faces of that cube. And it takes on a spherical form, which we would call the yin within the yang. And those yin forces, or the feminine sources, or the negative forces, however you want to think about it, then that will create or initiate the first onset of a waveform that then is going to have to go through further mechanisms in order to become an appearance of something physical. And we'll always say an appearance of something physical, so make what you want of that. So I'm going to read here. The great luminary Walter Russell understood creation as a wave cycle system. Light operating as coherent harmonic waves is divided by electric tension. Waveforms crystallize into matter inside a polarized cubic space, lattice, centering upon spheres of compression. The wave is structured onto a 3D grid defining the X, Y, and Z dimensions of space geometry. Now that's a lot of words, and it may make sense or not, but what we're trying to do is get across some concepts. If anybody really wants to dive in with both feet into what all that means, then you might want to start reading some Walter Russell, but it's really not necessary for our purposes here. So the cube, which is the space structure, is the outward radiative masculine force of electric dynamism. It acts as the boundary or pressure conditioning container for the sphere. Its 6-sided interior forms the dimension of the sphere. So what we're going to hopefully understand is that whenever a thought bubble becomes an electrical event and then creates a waveform intended to create something, it's all about compressing that information into a denser and denser form until it has the appearance of physicality. So with the cube now, we see there's this number 6 that's come up. The sphere, the inward generative feminine force of gravitative power, representing the magnetic fullness and compressed stillness of the one light. And when we talk about electricity, we're really talking about light. Now, when a consciousness is intending this thought form that has now become a wave into interjecting it into a three-dimensional appearance of physicality, then that creates that consciousness entering that matrix, if you will, and that defines the X, Y, and Z. So now we have a 6, we have a 3, that makes 9. And the inside outside in toroidal transformation, toroids are also becoming a common terminology, and we'll elaborate on a lot of this in future future episodes. But for right now, this compressed low volume and the cube expanded high volume crystallized matter as a sphere inside a cube wave field of space. And when you understand waveform mechanics, which you don't necessarily have to, it explains exactly how matter is created. Now, eventually, that is going to create a pattern within the wave that is what we would consider the golden mean, which is a mathematical formula that has been created by supreme consciousness that intends a certain, let's just say, plan or the way life in this realm is to unfold, and it was never intended to have any imperfection. I'm going to check on the admit here just a moment. Okay. So the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence give evidence to how life's intricate forms emerge from universal mathematics to the genesis of biological wave. And all we're talking about is a geometric shape to the wave that we've started to describe a bit, so that it conveys a certain pattern so that everything within our realm is going to unfold to similar patterns, so we can all play in the same sandbox. This inherent geometric order is embedded in the very blueprint of growth, dictating patterns in everything from cellular division to the branching of trees. An understanding of how the primordial impulse from the unmanifested void coalesces into tangible form can be found in the secret of the 3 times 3. Tesla, one of his renowned quotes is, "If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe." And the old alchemists used to say, "Know yourself, you'll know the universe." So the whole objective of this exercise is to know ourselves. Okay, it looks like I just lost the, that's too small. Bear with me for a moment. Is that better, Abe? Okay, I'll just say it is. So when we, now this is a sequence that I created that will graphically depict the different stages of the development of a waveform. So you had that singularity that we already talked about. The spark represents initial intention of primordial impulse, in which the unmanifest becomes manifest. It is pure potential, the first conscious thought within the cosmic mind that initiates the entire creative process, akin to a divine will that sets the etheric mechanisms into motion. When I'm writing this, I have to distill and paraphrase quite a bit of information so that hopefully we just have some cliff notes that make sense for our purpose. So I hope it works. The Trinity is the next phase because now that point of singularity, which has created an electrical event, creates a polarization, and you see the fulcrum up there at the 0, the plus and the minus, which are the two polarities of electricity. And this gets into the concept of the Holy Trinity. And depending what school of thought that you are coming from, we can talk about it in electrical terms. We can talk about the rays of aspect, which is a whole different thing that we're going to expand on more in episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, which will we'll talk about the formation of the body within alchemical terms, but how that relates exactly to what Rudolf Steiner was trying to describe. But more importantly, how that creates the three poles of our human body. And in the next episode, we'll describe how when those three poles overstep their boundaries or don't establish their boundaries properly, it will create issues. And the next episode is about the cancer terrain. We're not going to talk about a disease, but we're going to talk about a terrain that allows certain things to happen. And it will be very practical because it's not just about trying to prevent a disease, but it'll teach us much about how to keep our bodies healthy. So also this Trinity relates to dynamic balance, the 3-6-9 triangle in the Enneagram, which is a Sufi take on this whole affair, represents the integration of all three centers of intelligence, the heart, the head, and the body. And then we already talked about what the 3, 6, and 9, what Tesla considered it as a blueprint for defining the X, Y, and Z dimensions of space geometry for physical reality. Okay, and then if we talked about electrical terms, we talk about conductance, inductance, capacitance. So I hope just give you an idea. Now here's where the 6 sides enters when, remember, the waveform takes on that dimension first. And that is what we relate to as a hexagram. The 6-point configuration symbolizes the balance of polarities, strength, and the structure of the cosmos, such as the hexagonal patterns found in nature. And when you look throughout nature, you'll see this repeating pattern of hexagons. The hexagon symbolizes unification, connecting the macrocosm, the universe, to the microcosm, which is us, and embodying the Hermetic philosophy as above, so below. Hexagonal forms create structural efficiency, natural harmony, and symmetry, and represented throughout nature in honeycombs, snowflakes, and all the other crystalline forms that we're familiar with. Now, when we entered the 3 times 3, which means the Holy Trinity within the hexagram, it creates a 9-pointed star. And remember, we're talking about the dimensions of a waveform. So this is real. We aren't just talking about abstracts, but this will hopefully help us understand how that waveform is created and also what it means as far as our own physical bodies. So the 9-point star represents completion, the ultimate reality, and the vortex through which energy flows. The unification of the triangle and hexagram represents the fusion of spirit and matter, or masculine and feminine, to create a balanced, completed, or multi-dimensional form. The 3, 6, and 9, when unified with a hexagonal scaffolding creates a flux field or a pathway for energy to move between higher dimensions and the physical world. I borrowed the term flux field from Tesla. That's how he described it himself. Now, if you take that same 9-pointed star, and if you took the top 2 points of the hexagram, which is the physical scaffolding, and you did some lines from one point around the circle to the next, mathematically, you would see it creates the 1.6, which is the golden mean, so-called, and that's what you find replicated in nature in all of nature's physical forms. The golden mean is repeated throughout nature in sunflower seeds, shells, hurricanes, as it allows for the efficient expansion and patterning of the Fibonacci sequence. It is a harmonious balance point between the extremes of excess and efficiency. Within the science of biogeometry, varying combinations of three wavelengths can be found in the center of any natural formation and at the processes and sacred PowerPoints. And I see some typos and things I need to fix. Okay. Let me go back to that just for a moment. So we don't need to go through that, but the golden ratio, roughly 1.618, represents the Greek letter pi, or it defines perfectly balanced proportions, while the 9-pointed star also mirrors the symmetry of the diatonic scale, creating divine harmony. So this has everything to do with music as well. Now, a waveform needs to have a further mechanism to ultimately compress it into a state that we would call physicality. And we're coming up to blood here pretty soon. So this is well known in the alchemical sciences as a stratified layering that they designate certain symbolic elements to: fire, earth, all that kind of business. And our own etheric mechanism, our etheric anatomy, if you will, is an exact replica of that larger model that creates our entire universe. So at the very top, we have the causal body. You can call that your higher self, your I am presence, whatever works for you. It represents the fire element. And it's, again, going back to our initial discussion where our will intends to bring something into manifestation according to natural design. It then enters the next phase. In nature, we can describe how that fire is actually hydrogen, which then interacts with the air element, which is actually nitrogen, which creates a coagulation. So this is really physical science. And then, mates with the next element down, which is oxygen, that we call water. That creates a fermentation, and any alchemist understands fermentation is a distillation of information from certain things, like whether you're making a plant remedy or something else. It's just the way things work. So the astral body is represented by the water element, and it has to do with motion and any nuances that we might impart through our belief systems and an experience that can make motion into emotion, which is a distortion of the intended Fibonacci sequence. Then finally, the etheric body carries that information as a blueprint for the physical body, which in alchemy we call salt, and in anthroposophical medicine we call the lower pole, and so forth. So let's talk about blood. I may have skipped. Oh yeah, there we go. So the morphogenic field is nothing more than informational fields that have a way to compress into physical matter. An embryological event begins with the intention of the soul to experience the three-dimensional world. A dynamic flux field is set in motion, allowing energy movement between higher dimensions and the physical world. The seed atom conveys the blueprint of natural design, as well as the idiosyncratic nuances recorded as a composite of prior incarnations. This morphogenic field guides simple forms toward complex biological structures to convey pre-existing patterns for further refinement. In anthroposophical medicine, we call this the etherization of blood. And the intrinsic patterns of motion that we've been talking about, conveyed through the seed atom, account for the observation that blood circulates in a self-propelled spiraling stream before the heart has even begun to function. The heart takes shape from the spiral movements of this rhythmic circulation, and a still point occurs. I borrowed that term from osteopathic medicine, where we purposely create with our hands a cessation temporarily of innate movements within the skeletal structure and also organs in order for them to reset themselves and reorganize more in alignment with proper motion. And it does wonderful things, as far as helping the body regain health. So each successive organ system takes form as these movement patterns reach functional still points with the establishment of 3 germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. These 3 germ layers differentiate every tissue of the body, and the formation of the cardiovascular system, the neural tube, digestive, and musculoskeletal system. So the takeaway here is embryology is not a physical unfoldment. It's rather the coagulation of tissues according to the movements of energy that then compress into what we recognize as tissues and organs at these still points. And those still points are determined when the flow of energy compresses to a point to have the blueprint for a liver, a blood cell, neural tube, whatever is the original design of the body in the first place. That is what we should have all learned in medical school, because we'll see it has great practical consequences. So, an independently mobile fluid. Blood movement originates in the embryo and moves through its own internal vitality, capillary dynamics, and the metabolic processes of organs such as the liver, intestines, and kidneys. The heart interplays with the vortex dynamics of the flowing blood to regulate and balance the circulation rather than forcing it through the system. And we've all been familiar with how things really work. The blood is, or the heart is not a pump at all. The heart, we're going to see, like all organs, are actually sensory organs. They are sensing organs, and their main thing is to regulate energy. And I think I wrote a little bit about that here in a moment. So, matter through motion, embryological evolution. Embryological development is not merely a static blueprint unfolding, but a dynamic interplay of intrinsic motion and forces to transform from a single cell into a complex organism. From its embryonic origins, the human body is a naturally self-organizing system, continuously regenerating and sustaining itself through its inherent flow dynamics. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we owned that, rather than thinking that somehow our consciousness is trapped in a body that's having its way with us, rather than it's following orders from us every moment? Now, we'll expand on this more later, but we'll just highlight a couple things. I mean, we've already mentioned this. So organs are really organs of expression. Beyond their metabolic functions, the primary role of the major organ systems is to harmonize energetics to align spiritual purpose with physical embodiment. That's what they're supposed to do. As long as normal motion dynamics remain unimpeded by emotion, distortions can enjoy uninterrupted emotion distortions, one can enjoy uninterrupted health and well-being. And this is just a simple schematic that you're probably all familiar with within Chinese medicine, where we have the 5 main yin organs, which are vital centers for emotional processing, each intricately linked to a specific emotion. And we're talking about emotion, we have our own definition of an understanding, but the good thing about this too, when you understand what emotion really is, it has nothing to do with our story. We tend to invent stories to justify how we feel when in fact that energy is creating the story. So getting out of the story is how you get out of the wheel, off the wheel. And in a moment, we're going to start showing possibilities of interrupting those distortions so that we don't have to keep repeating physical disease or any overstaying our welcome on any emotional issue. And we can read through these, the 5 yin organs. In a future episode down the road, we're going to really detail out types of emotions, where they come from, everything from New German medicine to trauma sequences to Enneagram to, what we're looking at right here, but in an integrated way where we can understand it's not so simplistic as just, okay, a biological expression or just the 5 element, situation we're looking at here. There's a way to really look at this in actually a mathematical way and show how it actually creates specific predictable distortions in our energy or toroidal field. So we'll get into more of that later. So the cycle of disease. This is just reiterating what we've been talking about. Physiology mirrors astral body messaging moment by moment. And what we're going to see is how these imprints that originate from those recordings in the seed atom that tend to keep flowing by way of the blood system and picking up the same imprints from the organs that have been imprinted with that as well are carried to the venous system, then to the cerebral spinal fluid, and then a whole reinforcement where it goes back from the cerebral spinal fluid, which we're going to show how that happens in just a moment, to the astral body, and then the astral body literally creates our physical body moment by moment. So if you want to change anything in your physical body, it's good to support it with physical mediums when appropriate. But if we don't work at it on this level, on the astral level, then we're going to have short-lived results. Okay, so let me just move this down a bit here. Okay, so the cerebral spinal fluid within the 3rd ventricle, and we're talking about the brain here, and the picture on the left, right below the gray matter there, if that depicts it well. That's actually a canal with fluid in it, and that's a cerebral spinal fluid that flows up and down your spine. It has little nexus points with our physical senses, like the ear at different choroid plexus, which means areas where there's capillaries that interface venous blood return with that cerebral spinal fluid. So the cerebral spinal fluid can literally pick up the informational fields of where the body has been, repatterning the same old thing. So this bridges the pituitary and the pineal glands. Now the pituitary is in the forebrain. Excuse me, I have to admit somebody. And then behind it, at the rear portion of the canal, is the pineal. So the water element serves as the primary transmitting conduit for uploading data from the physical body to the water strata of the etheric body. The 3rd ventricle, esoterically known as the crystal palace, functions as a central hub where cerebral spinal fluid collects interacts with endocrine glands and transports spiritual energy. So here's how it works. The generation and collection portion, we have an antenna effect of the pineal that interprets light, dark cycles, emotions, and stress to the release, and also to release melatonin, DMT, and other substances into the cerebral spinal fluid within the third ventricle. So you see there's really an interplay with neurotransmitters that are dumped into that water too, which further conveys information to the astral body. Now, the pineal pituitary axis, in other words, their interplay by way of this water bridge, charges the cerebral spinal fluid to transmit hormonal messaging throughout the spinal cord and brain. Now, there's a natural motion within this whole system so that the cerebral spinal fluid independently flows with a pulsatile vortex motion, mixing hormones and neurotransmitters to be distributed to the entirety of the body's neurosensory system. And calcite crystals within the pineal convert physical pressure from surging cerebral spinal fluid and electromagnetic fields into electrical signals, translating bodily data into higher frequency information receivable by the astral body. So I hope from this we can have more of an appreciation that there really is a moment by moment communication between our physical selves and what we think of as our etheric body, which to most of us doesn't seem real because we can't see it, but it's more real, in fact, than our physical body. So this is how it works. So let's just recap. The cerebral spinal fluid acts as a fluid antenna and courier, collecting endocrine secretions and emotion resonance fields in the third ventricle, translating it through piezoelectric and biochemical processes to bridge the physical and astral bodies. More going on than meets the eye. So here is something that I found extremely useful in my clinical work, and we called it auto blood therapy. This is one of those things that you can do yourselves at home, and it's very simple, and it's brilliant and very effective. So auto blood therapy is a homeopathic reset for the cyclic interchange between body and astral using your own blood as a vehicle for transformation. As a living record of ancestral memories, karmic imprints, and experiences accumulated across countless incarnations, blood complexed with the earth, solar, and lunar elements can facilitate a positive interruption of repetitious emotion. So here's what you're going to need. 3 homeopathic preparations that are readily available on the internet or any herb store probably. The earth element is embodied in antimonium crudum, and a 6x is a good potency to begin with. And we'll go back to those issues in a minute. But this is, in the world of homeopathy, the earth element. The solar element is best represented by the homeopathic remedy Aurum metallicum. We'll also get this in a 6x potency. And the lunar element, and Aurum metallicum is of course gold. And the lunar energies, we call the feminine versus the masculine, we can, think about it in different ways, is best represented by argentum nitricum, which is silver. Now, if we look at these remedies individually, they can be used in many ways in homeopathic medicine. but they have a strong activity on our emotional body. Antimonium, the earth element, really helps us deal with limitations and over densification and stubbornness. So just think of the what was it in Lord of the Rings? The I want to say midgets. It's not the midgets. The dwarfs. They're kind of the earth, and their miners are a little bit overly grounded in there sometimes, and they have a hard time changing their mind. Now, the solar energy, and this with Aurum, deals with emotions related to depression, sorrow, and hopelessness. And silver, the lunar essence, deals with anxiety, apprehension, and panic. Now, I think if we take all three of those remedies and the issues that they deal with, I think we'd all have to agree that that encompasses the entirety of the human state and the foundation to all the story that we create, as far as emotional and therefore physical issues. So you can see we're covering everything with these three remedies. But here's where it gets more interesting. Here's what you'll need for supplies. Those three remedies that we already talked about. You're going to need 3 dropper bottles, 15 milliliters each. You can find those anywhere. And lancets for capillary blood. So any pharmacy will have these. You can get them online. And they have the little gizmos where you put a little needle in there so it doesn't penetrate too deeply. You put it on the pad of a finger and push the button, and then you just get a little drop of blood. Doesn't hurt. And that's how you get your drop of blood. You're also going to need some distilled water. So here's the procedure. Number 1, take the sterile lancet and collect 1 drop of capillary blood from the mid-finger pad. The second step is actually a 3-part process. And in this, you're going to potentiate the blood. In other words, you're going to make the blood into a homeopathic remedy through standard homeopathic procedures, which is dilution and succussion, which means a vigorous vibrational, hitting, the bottle against the pad of your hand or something, or just shaking it vigorously in the air. So you take 1 drop of blood and add it to the first bottle, 15 milliliter bottle of distilled water. Shake vigorously 21 times. Now you take a drop of that and you add it to a second bottle, also 15 milliliters of distilled water. Do the same thing. Shake it vigorously 21 times. Now you take a drop from that bottle, and this is important if you want to create a true homeopathic remedy from your blood, because this dilution succussion is going to allow it to have greater energetic effect that will bypass more the physical processes of the body. So now you add a drop from bottle 2 into bottle 3, do the same thing. Now you have in that third bottle your homeopathically attenuated blood. Step 3, you're going to potentiate the base. In other words, the base is the earth element. Now you're going to take 1 drop from bottle 3 in step 2, and you're going to add a drop from that into 15 milliliters of antimonium crudum. So this is the undiluted, well, it's already been diluted because it's your homeopathic, but this is what you might have got at the store or online. It's 15 milliliters of antimonium. You can get it in 30 milliliters, whatever, but just put it in a 15 milliliter bottle if you can't find 15 milliliters on its own, just so we can keep this process proper. And then you do the same thing. You vigorously shake it 21 times. Now you have the base with the earth element and your blood. For your morning formula, in other words, this is something you're going to take in the morning hours as soon as you get up. You're going to add 1 drop of the base from step 3 into 15 milliliters of the aurum metallicum. You're going to shake it. And now this is your regular morning formula. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to take 5 drops sublingually, just kind of let it register under your tongue and think about what you're doing. And use the remainder of the bottle daily until gone. You can always, of course, make more down the road if you feel like you need to do it longer. So obviously during the day, you'd want more of that solar energy. And that's why we use the aurum metallicum for the morning formula. And in the evening at bedtime, we take 1 drop again from the base in step 3, and we add it to 15 milliliters of the silver or the argentum nitricum, and do the same process, shake it, and then take 5 drops sublingually at bedtime until the remainder of the bottle daily is gone. Check in here a moment. And we're going to be winding down now with some physical interventions. The most important thing to understand is the moment your blood is powerful beyond what we can imagine. It's more powerful than a 500-watt radio antenna that can broadcast a signal from Texas to California. And it's broadcasting everything about you. So when you put a drop of blood into these mixtures, it's already working on your body before you even take it. But what we're going to do is take it because it's a very powerful thing to get it into your body physically, but also it's a whole daily ritual that is going to be very powerful if you follow through on it. And this is the first step to actually intervening directly into the astral body with the records of your own body, with those 3 energies, earth, solar, and silver, that will convey informational fields that will help you break free from those emotions that each one of those deal with. And somebody's just arriving. Here's another important concept, is when those emotions are prevalent or in existence at all, it makes you a magnet to hold on to physical toxins that otherwise would just pass right through you. Physical toxins would not find you a hospitable home to take residence up in. I don't care how much you breathe out of the air and all the stuff we're exposed to, it just won't stick. So it's important to get those emotional, informational fields moving. But now let's move on to how we can support that process with physical interventions. And when you alleviate the burden of physical toxins simultaneously, it's going to help that astral level circulate on the energetic level to be expedited, we'll say. And it just then has a great back and forth activity. So we're going to just recap on something we've talked about before, which is the 6 stages of disease, which describes a progression of toxification whereby metabolic waste, environmental toxins, and an imbalance of doshas, which is in Ayurvedic medicine, those energetic predispositions, how they accumulate in the blood and tissues. So in stage 1, which we call accumulation, it's a quiet stage where things are kind of maybe we have some exposure, but the body is able to eliminate it because our elimination systems are working in full force, and we might feel a little bit foggy or have a headache on any given day, but it's going to move through us. Stage 2, the aggravation stage, a little bit of accumulation starts happening here, and it's we have an increase in quantity of these things accumulating in our body. We have symptoms might increase with different digestive issues and other areas, anything you can think of. In stage 3, we are starting to have even further accumulation, and things move into general circulation. In other words, the bloodstream, which is why we're talking about this, because the blood eventually, carries all this and distributes it. So the toxins circulate throughout the body, leading to blood toxemia with signs of systemic inflammation, such as low-grade fever, general fatigue or rashes, and a number of other things. Stage 4, those toxins now, rather than systemically flowing, they find a home, and the body in its wisdom will try to sequester them away in a certain tissue so they're not just circulating, making us feel miserable all the time. And then wherever those accumulations happen, that's, where undesirable things happen too. And we have the foundation for chronic symptoms. Stage 5, we start to experience disease, so-called, that very often escapes the rationale of any Western medical diagnosis. They scratch your heads, we don't know. But these toxins start significantly interfering with physiology, causing symptoms that include localized inflammation, skin disorders, joint pains, ulcers, and things even more undesirable. Stage 6, things become more chronic, more serious symptoms. You can have disruptions in cellular replication. That's what they call neoplasms and such. Next time, we're going to really take a deep dive into, again, the cancer train and help us understand what to do about it and how to not go there in the first place. But more than anything, use it as an illustration of how the Bioterrain actually works. Let's go to some things. Now, a lot of these you guys already know about, but they are so important and so powerful. I thought that it does bear repeating just to encourage you maybe to use things you know about but haven't taken full advantage of. Ayurvedic oil pulling. It really works. And that's why it's been around for centuries. And that's why the Ayurvedics, who are pretty smart and had centuries to figure some things out. And we don't have to go through this whole thing, but it just means putting oil in the mouth and swishing around for 15, 20 minutes and spitting it out. And it purifies the blood because a great deal of our entire blood passes through those subcapillary or sublingual capillaries every single minute. And after 20 minutes, it's like putting in an extra oil filter, and it can really draw toxins out of the blood. So emulsification and removal. The swishing action mixes oil with saliva, creating an emulsion that binds with chemical toxins, environmental pollutants, and heavy metals to assist in overall detoxification. Somebody needs to mute out there. After 15 or 20 minutes, the impurity-laden saliva is expelled. Sublingual capillaries are an accessible site for accessing, it should say, global microcirculatory flow to provide a direct line to the bloodstream. Cold-pressed oils, like coconut, sesame, contain antioxidants that inhibit lipid peroxidase, anyway, so forth. It offers a great mechanism to remove toxins. We have a little how to do the process. You guys can replay these slides if you want to look at this more. We even have on our website, products in alphabetic N. Pharmaceutical has it in a different section too. Different blends, they're slightly different between the two websites. So the importance of this, you're not just using oil mixed with other things, they're going to have a more amplified effect as far as removing toxins as compared to just oil alone. Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Hey, Drew, could you mute yourself, please? Drew, could you mute yourself, please?
Thank you. No problem. So the next one is ozone therapy. And ozone is fantastic because as it enters the bloodstream, it has a great oxidation effect. And I know that's become a bad word, but it really breaks down toxins and things through that oxidation, and it's very powerful. That's why in my practice, I did major autologous blood therapy, which was doping the blood with ozone and then dripping it back in the body. And, we had different ways to do that. And it was very, very powerful if somebody needed a quick oil change because they were in bad shape. And I won't read through all these things, but it has a great effect biochemically. It enhances oxygenation. It modulates your immune system. And whenever I talk about immunity or immune system, I'm not talking about it in the same vein of conventional allopathic or even naturopathic medicine because in let's just say the immune system is not something that's designed to fight the bad guys. It's natural mechanisms that keep your bioterrain in order. And things like inflammation are actually powerful processes that the body intelligently employs. It's not, a pathogenic process at all. But if you know what it is, you can work with it, and then the body doesn't have to do it as often or as amplified, which sometimes creates symptoms in and of itself. So it also, creates an advanced detox, throughout the whole blood. Now, if any of you are fortunate enough to have an ozone machine at home, forgive me, stay. There's real easy ways where you can, on a daily basis, use ozone. You can ozonate water and drink it. Rectal insufflation, if you did this daily, which takes about 2 minutes, and we can put some, for anybody that wants, we can put some notes in the member section that tell you exactly what settings to use and all the details. But if you aren't in an urgent situation and you did this daily, I would argue that it even has a better effect than going in and, doing the real invasive autologous blood therapy, which has its place when needed. But if you can just do it more gently over a time period, you're going to have amazing effects from it. And then if you have any area of the body, including organs, over your liver, over any organ you can think of, or maybe a joint that hurts or something, which is a sure sign that there's an accumulation of biotoxins there and not arthritis. You can do cupping, which means, there's little appliances that come with ozone machines that will allow you to concentrate the ozone on the surface of the body, and that can create a deep detoxification in a specific locale and do a lot of other good things, including enhancing oxygenation in those areas. Okay, next thing, we're getting close. And this, again, is something that you all know about, but let's understand the history of how coffee enemas came to being. They were not some new concept, created by a chiropractor or something. During World War I, nurses and medics often used coffee enemas to manage pain in injured soldiers when standard medical supplies and opioids were scarce. In the early 20th century, coffee enemas were used in hospital settings for post-operative recovery, shock, and sometimes for cases of poisoning. The practice was included in some nursing and medical manuals, actually. The Merck manual, from the late 19th century through the mid 20th century until around 66 to 72. And I was actually first exposed to this through the Merck manual. That's a standard medical publication. Mysteriously, it disappeared. We don't know why. So, mechanisms of action, liver enzyme activation. So you have palmitate and caffeine that are absorbed through the lower bowel, and that provides a very powerful effect as it bypasses the digestive system and creates an effect where it converts toxins into harmless compounds. And then also it enhances bile flow uh, when it's absorbed through the rectal wall, travels to the liver via the portal vein, dilating bile ducts and stimulating the release of accumulated toxins and bile into the intestines for excretion. And it's a powerful, powerful thing. I would argue that everybody that's breathing the same air, sitting around Wi-Fi like we're all doing right now and everything, which actually creates an accumulation of metabolic waste products in at an accelerated rate. We should be doing minimum 1 or 2 a week. So that's what I suggest. And we have our own formula, so we're not just using raw green coffee, but also a lot of herbal enhancers and other elements. And we have that available at Alpha Vedic and Pharmacies. The Pharmacies is almost ready to launch, by the way. And I say that because people have been asking me. Okay, the other thing that we are all aware of is zeolite, but let's just talk about why it's so good. It creates an ion exchange, a biological vacuum, we could say. It has a natural negative charge, allowing it to attract and trap positively charged heavy metals, toxins, and environmental pollutants with its cage-like honeycomb structure. It binds toxins in the gut, and by doing this in the gastrointestinal tract, it prevents them from being absorbed into the bloodstream and reduces the overall toxic load on the body. And we're relating all this to purifying the blood. And all these things work dramatically to do that. And when these toxins accumulate and also provoke the colonization of microbes that aren't pathogens, but just trying to do a job, but don't go away, so they become a problem in and of themselves because we aren't taking measures to clean up our own bioterrain. Then they start eating away at the gut lining and so forth, and that creates what's become known as leaky gut syndrome, with all sorts of issues with that, which are very real. And so anyway, and then also those same inflammatory molecules keeps them from leaking into the intestines and therefore into the bloodstream. It also releases minerals. Zeolite helps us release beneficial minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium into the body. Some people say, well, doesn't it deplete us of minerals if it has this natural chelating effect? No, it actually does the opposite. And I, for many years, did intravenous chelation therapies, which worked and were great. But with zeolite, I found it much more gentle, just as effective. It just takes, a little stick to it on a daily basis. And there's ample research that indicates zeolite supplementation can lead to decreased blood concentrations of heavy metals, such as mercury, cadmium, arsenic, nickel, and aluminum. And the next thing I'd recommend, again, nothing new to all of you folks, but algae is particularly effective, which is why we created also a powder that combines all the best green things. Now, I'm not at all intending to make this into an infomercial, but I get inquiries all the time of what can I do for certain things. And I try to refrain from making our website into a symptomatic related product thing. So, but there are just the basic foundational things. So pretty much cover all your bases. So algae cleanses the blood in very powerful ways. And then the high chlorophyll content helps oxygenate. So chlorella in particular has a very unique hard cell wall that binds to toxins, heavy metals, and environmental pollutants. So it gets them out of the blood. The chlorophyll, again, helps detoxify by increasing oxygenation in the blood, provides liver and digestive support, reduces the workload on the liver. This lowering lipid levels, I hesitated putting this in because the whole conventional idea of cholesterol is a medical scam to sell pharmaceuticals, but there is something to lipid imbalances that can be provoked by the accumulation of toxins. So kind of take that about lowering lipid levels with a proper educated grain of salt. And then antioxidant action, that phyocyanin, which is a blue pigment within the spirulina in particular, really helps regenerate the neurology of our bodies, and the neurology takes the biggest hit with heavy metals in particular. So it's a great thing to include. And we're almost there. Herbals, we don't have to go through all of this, but herbs support blood cleansing by stimulating the liver, kidneys, and lymphatic system to filter toxins more efficiently, acting as diuretics, bitter tonics, and antioxidants. They enhance the body's natural detoxification processes and improve circulation. So you can go through their liver support, kidney support, stuff you probably already know about, lymphatics, cleavers and all that good stuff, circulation and protection. You can drink these as teas, tinctures, it doesn't matter. Just teas are a wonderful way to get herbs, by the way, and very inexpensive. So you never want to forget about herbs because they are super, super powerful. Cell salts, of course. The main cell salt used to cleanse the blood is Calcarea sulfurica, and it's known as the blood cleanser. And it supports the liver in removing waste products from the bloodstream for systemic purification. And I listed a few more here that are also excellent. Natrium sulfuricum, it eliminates water, and that doesn't mean it dehydrates you or acts as a diuretic, but it eliminates water that is in excess or laden with toxins and helps you redistribute fluids the way they're supposed to be. And that's a big thing. I have some new spagyrics coming out that are going to be complexed with herbs and these cell salts. So it's going to have an amplified effect between the two mediums that will support each other on two different levels. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Kali muriaticum purifies the blood, supports the lymphatic system, clears toxins, and treats congestion. Silica, or silicea, is also called the toxic eliminator, and it aids in cleansing the blood and strengthening the connective tissues. Natrium phosphoricum, finally, neutralizes acidity in the blood, which is the byproduct of fermentation when biotoxins accumulate and create an anaerobic state, which is the same as fermentation. So it really helps neutralize the acidity, which is a natural consequence of anaerobic metabolism. And we're getting there. This is a wonderful one, and I can't tell you how important this is. Crabapple flower essence. And remember, as we said last time, flower essences are powerful when used with the proper state of understanding and timed with when you need them. So it's known as the cleanser of the Bach remedies. Crabapple flower essence acts as a cleansing agent by restoring harmonics within negative mental states, feelings of self-disgust, shame that manifest as physical impurities, fostering inner purity, self-acceptance, and energetic detoxification. So it just helps you release energy absorbed from the surroundings and clears toxic thoughts or obsessive behaviors from the body's energy field by addressing emotional feelings of being unclean, shame, or low self-esteem. It helps restore balance in the body's energy field in that way as well. It's a good support for elimination, used along with your herbal and other kinds of supports, releases obsessions. So really look into crabapple. It's probably one of the best go-tos out of all the Bach flower essences. And a little synopsis: crabapple is designed to help you come clean on a mental level to support physical well-being. I added this as a afterthought just last night. And I thought, shoot, we're talking about the blood, and I'm always getting questions about the blood type diet. Not just to denigrate that, but let's just look at things from a higher altitude. And I'll just read this. Civilizations have come and gone, and recent blood type theories are based on a very myopic view of mankind's history. We all know history as we think of it, including, maybe hunter-gatherer typos, come from the Serengeti plain or somewhere else in Europe. It's really a shallow thought process and doesn't understand our true origins and history on this planet. Blood types have little to do with the remnants of different root races that migrated to different geographical regions following catastrophic earth changes. Blood types should be more rightly considered as purposeful root races incarnating to provide precise essence and role in the unfolding of the Earth experiment. So we can go through type O, and you've probably seen some of this before. I just did my own little version of it. Type O, we can kind of call the guardians. They're the oldest blood type that provide the grounding influence to humanity and, serve as a stabilizing effect in times of chaos. Type A are the healers or the sensitives. They're compassionate and intuitive in nature. They're prone towards farming and agrarian societies to foster the essence of harmony, community, and emotional intelligence. The water element, or type B, are the pathfinders or mystics. Free spirits of a nomadic inclination associated with creativity, adaptability, and a strong connection to mystical or celestial knowledge. The ether element would be type AB. Now, this is, a more rare combination of type A and B, but it's, we could call them the alchemists. And they help us bridge the gap between the physical and spiritual as alchemists of consciousness. And then RH negative, which has a really fascinating roots, but for here we'll just call them the ancients. And there's been a lot of folklore about, what RH negative really pertains to. So these are also sometimes referred to as the starseed people and people of ancient blue blood heritage, possessing heightened intuitive abilities and empathy apart from conventional earthly patterns. So a lot more fun than just say I'm a type B, so I need to eat more broccoli or something, Okay. This might get out there a little bit, but there is actually good evidence that this is what happens in the final stages of purification. So I'll just read it and we'll open this up to questions and answers. And hopefully some of you have some answers. Only one step removed from its etheric origins, blood reveals more about the wheel of incarnation than any other bodily tissue. The mechanics of creation are on full display, as blood mimics the intrinsic patterns of universal motion conveyed through the seed atom on its self-propelled mission as a messenger between the worlds. Its characteristic hue of rouge is not inherent but acquired. This is real interesting. Conventional thought would explain the red coloration as a consequence of hemoglobin, but there's a much deeper story involved. The deeper tones and ruddiness of blood were never the preference of nature's softer palette. And, if you look at anything within nature, like a rainbow, you'll see pastel shades of pink and things, but you never see a bright red. It doesn't exist in the natural origins of life, we'll say. Right now, I'm thinking of a pomegranate, so sorry about that, or a tomato. But someday we'll do a session on the historical significance of the tomato, maybe. Okay, so the natural state of human blood is of a golden effervescence, and to this it will once again return as the soul completes its journey through the crucible of human experience, and especially in some of the old theosophical, anthroposophical, and leading up to especially the ascended master teachings of Saint Germain, they explain more in elaboration of why this is so. So it might be, I thought it might be an interesting way to conclude our presentation. So let me get out of the screen share. Hi, there you all are. Any questions? You can unmute yourselves.
I have a question.
Okay, Amber.
When you were talking about the homeopathic remedies to do your own blood, when I look them up online, do they need to be the liquid ones or can you use the pellets? Because the pellets are readily available on Amazon. So that's the first part of my question. The
Good
second
question.
part is, does it need to be 6X? Can it be 30? Would 200 work the same?
I would keep it in the last part of the question first. I would keep it in the lower dilution ranges. You could go up to 30,
Okay.
that wouldn't be a deal breaker. But if you get way up into higher potencies, it doesn't accommodate the potencies we're trying to get in with the process that we outlined. So try to keep it, between 6 and 30, something like that.
Okay.
And the first part, liquids would sure make it easier. It would
Do you
be
have
possible
do you
to.
have a place to buy liquids? Because one of them isn't available on Amazon in a liquid in 6X.
I think if you Google it, you'll find a lot of sources.
Okay.
So we'll all help each other find those.
Okay.
And as far as pellets, it would be possible to take some 6X pellets and put some in some distilled water, let them dissolve and succuss it. It's going to be a little bit less exact, perhaps. You just have to guesstimate as far as how many pellets, but it would work absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Nobody else?
Hey, Bear. Can you hear me?
I can hear some. Oh, there.
Hey,
There you are.
sorry about that. Hi.
I see
Awesome
you in a
presentation.
very muted light there.
Yeah, sorry. It's pretty dark here.
Hey, no problem. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
I had a question. I had my blood examined a couple of days ago. I went through dark field microscopy, and one thing that we saw was some of the red blood cells would end up kind of looking like a balloon shape.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you knew what that meant or what.
It could mean a lot of things, and I've seen that often. It's nothing dire or anything to worry about. But in order to make a good judgment about what that particular thing means, I could say it might have to do with membrane integrity and things like that. But you'd have to look at the context of the entire slide because there's going to be inclusions. There's going to be what did the other cells look like, white blood cells included, and that's going to give you more of your answer. So Did the practitioner that helped you with that give you any ideas?
Well, she kind of talked about like some sort of protein digestion being one of the reasons, but she wasn't quite sure. She was just kind of like she noticed that. And actually, I had it done with my son too, and he had very similar looking
Okay.
red blood cells too. So yeah.
I don't know who you saw, and she's probably great. Just from my own perspective, I think that would be jumping to some conclusions that have a highly unlikelihood of being true. And again, you need to look at it in the context of everything else.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure you'll get some value of, other things you might have picked up through that. And again, not to suggest that who you're seeing isn't great, but I think the Bigglesons are kind of the go-to folks if you want more of a sophisticated analysis of your blood.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's kind of well. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, I see a hand. Pamela, how you doing?
I'm fine. How about you, Bear?
Awesome.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I have a question, from the last one. I was able to find the potassium chromate and all that stuff, but I couldn't get silver nitrate without buying a huge amount at a huge expense.
Exactly.
So what do you recommend?
Well, of course, you could always buy a lifetime supply. But if you don't want to do that, and what I'm going to have to do is actually, I was talking to Abe before because it's getting harder and harder to find the 74%. You can find the 90% readily out there. And that can kind of work, but you have to adjust the findings a little bit, which I know how to do, but I don't want to keep confusing everyone. So what we can do is I'll get some directions out where we get what's available, maybe the 90% or whatever, and we'll show you how to dilute it to make it 74%.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Good question, though. And I know that's been up for some folks. And that's
Yeah.
such a great test. It would be a shame not to do it.
So easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Anybody else out there? I can't see everybody on the screen all at once, so
I think Bar, some people put some question or comments in the chat.
oh,
If you look,
okay.
you'll see a few questions in there. I think people typed instead of saying it.
And the renowned Josh just joined us. How
Yeah,
you doing,
Josh
buddy?
just showed up.
Josh, since you've got your hand up, let's go for it. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, Bear. How you doing?
Good. What a pleasant surprise.
I appreciate the shout out there. I was questioned about the 6 stages that you were talking about in the blood, for lack of a better word, toxicity. Does that correlate at all with toxicology?
Completely.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I know there's different ways of looking at it. We've talked
Exactly.
to some Eastern people.
I can look
Yep.
at it from an Oriental Chinese medicine perspective, from an Ayurvedic medical perspective. And, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, they have slightly different contexts and talk about, interject different ideas of energy and everything. You just disappeared from my view, Josh. So
Still here.
I think I'm still talking to you. And, but they're all talking about the same thing.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Oh, there you are. You're right in the middle there. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. I appreciate it, Bear. You're awesome.
Okay. Take care, buddy. Okay. How we doing, folks? Oh, Sam, good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah. Now with that blood tincture, if I'm doing isopathics at the time, can I continue to do isopathics, or should I wait until I'm not doing those before I do the blood tincture?
No, won't have an effect at all on the blood, because what we're getting at is the recordings of the blood. And if you're taking mucor or something, that affects circulation, it's not going to even make a dent or to change those informational fields.
On another note, I was just reading Jung the other day, and he talked about in alchemy. One of the old alchemists was talking how important human blood was in the tinctures.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Perfect
So
timing for you to read that.
That happens all the time with me because I read so many different books at once.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely. And it's not my bright idea. I started doing it, I don't know, in the early 80s or something.
Yeah, so I'm ready to start doing it. Sounds like the thing to do because, man, I've had such great success with those isopathics. They've really made the difference.
Absolutely. And also in upcoming episodes, I won't be doing just a straight thing on isopathics, but I think session 4 is going to get into the middle pole, according to anthroposophy, which is the respiratory and circulatory system, heart and lungs. And with that, I'll start talking about the two constitutional isopathics, which is mucor and aspergillus, and what that means on a more, let's just say, a deeper level beyond just little creatures, but has everything to do with them at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll kind of sneak in all sorts of bits of information in modules, so to speak. So I think it'll have more of a meaningful effect because you'll be discussing things within context of how things work, rather than, okay, today we're just going to talk about every isopathic.
Sounds good. I like that, because, the mental part is so important, and that's a matter of being able to understand how things work. It really makes a big difference for me, at least. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I love about Jung. It's a long read, but you're getting the historical context and you're getting different people's views. Some things may not jive with you, but a lot does.
And, the writings from those different eras have a lot of forgotten gems in them.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Great class.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Believe me. TJ?
Hi, good evening.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the very powerful and enlightening presentation. It was really profound. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And can you talk about taking the blood tincture? You had referenced that it's really important that it's like a ritual, that you need to know what you're doing. Can you talk about that aspect of the daily?
Yeah, rituals work, and it doesn't have to be dark magic or something. It's about repetitively stating your will and intentions. And in this case, you're taking an actual physical medium that has great energetic consequences at the same time from the information that's contained in that. And every time you take it, you don't want to just haphazardly squirt some under your tongue and hope it fixes you. You're really engaged in what you're taking. I mean, this is a recording of your entire existence, including your arithmetic grades in 8th grade. I mean, it's got everything there. So there's nothing that's not included. I mean, if we wrap our mind around that, it's pretty incredible. So we've got all that. And also, even if it's out of the body, it's resonating with our body still. And then we replace those different elements represented by the homeopathic tinctures. And like I said, it has an immediate effect, but then every time we take it in the morning, the earth and the solar, at nighttime, the feminine, the magnetic, the lunar, and the blood. And it's just, it's a way where you'll start. I don't know if you've ever kept a dream journal, and people get into lucid dreaming. It's like, I don't remember anything. Then you wake up in the morning, you start writing things down, and come slow at first. Then pretty soon you can't write fast enough and you're filling up pages and pages. It's the same thing with this. You start becoming aware of things when you're doing this consciously. And that's why I really wanted to include this, because apart from all the physical remedies, which I think are very important, I would place this number one. And it, just gets us in tune on a different level, which is what heals everything.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody else out there?
Bear, it looks like you may have touched on this, but Kathleen posted in the chat something kind of about shiny object syndrome. Can you engage in too many protocols at once, or what do you recommend as far as keeping it simple, like oil pulling and lumen greens or other combinations?
I think more than worrying about too many things, it's about combining the right things that work complementary. So the way I like to do things personally, and what seemed to work with other people, is if I'm, for instance, going with a greens formula, you might just try that for a while. And, it prevents also, say you do it for a month, it prevents supplement fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
So that you want to always keep your body a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, guessing, or, just, yeah. And, we're not talking like supplementation, like vitamins and things. Minerals, I think, are legit supplements and have a whole different place. And anyway, that's another discussion. But, yeah, if you're taking greens, just stick with that for a while, and, eat good food, good water, think double plus happy thoughts. And then, at the end of a month, maybe you could go to a straight zeolite, or, I don't think one coffee enema a week is going to be overdoing it at all, no matter what else you're taking. But yeah, if you get up every morning and you're just opening up jars of pills or even some of our powders, and you're taking everything all the time, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even do that with my own stuff. It'd just get really tiresome. So, just try to tune in and take, learn to discern, to intuit, and your body will just say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then stick with that, get the effect, and then move on. And I don't know, I rambled a bit. I don't know if that answered your question.
That's really good, Bear.
Oh, good.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
Are you going to have these PDFs available?
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to apologize about this. I know I promised, I believe, Sam last time that I would. Now, since then, I have been advised to hold off and just to make, these replays available, which people get all the information. And here's why. This is going to be refined a little bit further and make its way into a book form. And there will be much more in the book form relative to references and things. And, so, yeah, sorry, Sam. I know I made a false promise there.
No problem. It's okay. I like the book better anyway.
Okay. And so, there'd be 12 versions or 12 episodes. So it's, we're going to keep ourselves amused for a little bit. And then also, Abe's got some amazing things to share. And, I'll stick with the regular episodes in this Bioterrain season, but every so often we might interrupt to hear from one of you. And I know Abe has something that I really want to hear about too. So
You
him and
want
I
me
are
to
going to get together and
you want me to
schedule
touch on it
that
real quick?
interjected. Sorry, Abe, go ahead.
You want me to touch on it real quick?
I would love it because you'll do better
It's
than me.
it's the mindset piece of the story we tell ourselves about our health and about our
Mhm.
day-to-day life and the things that we move through or don't. And mindset, simply put, is the story we tell ourselves. The story is made up of words. And when we speak it, it's made up of words and breath. What happens when you've got no breath in your story? You have no space and clarity. So I have some simple, useful, repeatable tools that people can take away and use with themselves, with the people around them. And if they need help, there's me and other practitioners that are available. That's not the point. The point is to give you guys the tools that will help you to integrate those stories so that you can get them out of the way. So these things that Dr. Bear is talking about and Josh and others, they land with way more efficacy because you have space and clarity with which to really pay attention to that morning drop of
Yeah. Thank you.
blood in a tincture. So
Amazing.
anyway, that will be happening when we
Maybe
figure out a
next month
schedule.
even.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll see if the dates work for you. I'm back and forth between Santa Barbara right now, so we'll make sure our dates align. Okay. Yeah, we'll keep with our new format of every monthly meeting, providing value. And I think the old ones were kind of fun. We'd sit around and chew the fat and, wing it, including when we were going to do it. So I'm formalizing a little bit because I want you guys to, get your worth out of these. And just like you can get supplement fatigue, I think you can also get Lando fatigue. So it would be helpful to have some of you interjecting, your expertise along the way, and then we'll just, keep it going. So anyway, anybody else? Thanks, Abe. I appreciate it. Hey, Brandon. How you doing, bud?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I had a question about the zeolite.
Sure.
I've been taking zeolite for a while. My wife, she was pregnant. Now we have a little one and she's breastfeeding. And I was super hesitant to give it while she was pregnant. We did give like very minimal dosage. And I've done a little bit of research and I've gone back and forth. I was just wondering what your opinions were.
Of course, the universal disclaimer would be don't do anything when you're pregnant. I don't necessarily believe in that, make up your own mind, but I would not see any problem with it at all. In fact, I think it would be in alignment with keeping your bloodstream pure while you're making a newborn. It's not going to in any way take away things that the newborn needs, and it's not at all going to expose them to more toxins. It's just going to keep the bloodstream freer from those things, which is where, the baby's getting its nourishment. That's just me if I was in that situation.
Yeah, because the way I understand it, and I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly, is that like the binding, the electrical bind that
Yeah.
takes place is hard to break. It's hard for it to drop, like I don't know, like say a cadmium and have it be replaced by something else. And I don't know if that's true or not.
I'm not sure I know what you mean by it makes it harder for it to drop.
So like I've heard that like it'll like the zeolite itself because of what is that? Is it negatively charged? So it's
Yeah.
attaching to positively
Mhm.
charged metal, and so I thought that possibly if it was holding on to something that was only slightly positively charged and it came
Oh,
across
I
something
see
that
what
was
you mean.
like
Then it's
more
gonna unearth things and then
something
dump
else.
them. Now, I don't think that's an issue myself.
Okay.
Also, it helps free up binding sites in your neurology, you know, the neuromuscular junction, the junction where neurons also meet organs, so that these things don't clog up important hormonal uh, releases and things that the baby needs as well. So I think it's a good idea, but you know, at the same time, what I probably do is during the pregnancy, kind of do 2 weeks on, 1 week off. You know, it's
And what we ended up doing was just like it was probably like a couple of drops, you know, maybe 3 times a week, 3, 4 times a week, and it.
so. I stopped using liquid. You know, I was making it. You're getting some good effect out of it. It's going to
I
be,
have. It was something that like
yeah.
was one of the first like things that I'm taking. Gosh, it's a masterpiece.
Okay. Yeah, and
And
again, you'll get some good effect. If you want a more pronounced effect, it's hard to get that in a liquid. On the other hand, that doesn't mean you're not going to feel good things. I was putting it in the liquid form, and there's two ways to do it. I won't get too much into it, but it can create sediment, and which creates problems. And then you can only get so much of that in there anyway. So then I started doing what most people do, which is a whole filtration and, you know, suspending it so it's more of a clear and no sediment happening. But then what I realized is people would say, here's how much zeolite you're going, because that's what they start with. But by the time you go through the rest of the process, you're really removing a lot of the zeolite too. So you're getting weaker amounts of zeolite, which might be fine. In fact, it might be, you know, what certain people prefer. What I'm doing going forward is just using the straight powder, because you can just use a little tiny scoop in a medium with some other things and get more of a pronounced effect. But that's just
I'm
kind of
excited to try it.
that's just a
That'll be
technical
next.
manufacturing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try it. I came across this one first, and so I have it on hand, so that's what I'm
No,
using.
and if it works, use it.
I was very happy.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was one of those things. I was like, wow, this is the first time that
Yeah.
something's like
That's the proof in the
noticing
pudding. So don't even second guess it.
Yeah. So, but I am also excited to, I'm up for trying all sorts of things. So
Yeah.
I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for everything. Been following you for a while, and it's
Oh,
good seeing you
thanks.
on a chat. It's
Appreciate it.
awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Bear.
Oh, do I?
I
Kathy?
I have a question.
Oh,
Can you?
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to have you guys do a WrestleMania to. Oh, you didn't have your hand up. That's Jano. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Did I
I have.
mispronounce your name?
Well, O is the for the last name.
Oh, okay.
Jan O. But I
Oh,
have a
got
question
it.
about the isopathics. Do you do the same intuitive dosing, like you take it until you don't have an effect anymore, or whereas in homeopathics they do the the least amount.
Yeah.
What is your thought? Do you do the whole bottle, or do you?
Well, isopathics are not homeopathics.
Yeah.
You can absolutely just take the intuitive method, in which case I wouldn't mix too many of them. I
Yeah.
think the more you learn about them, though, you can develop a strategy. And if you know your own body and you say, I'd really like to target the digestive system forever, you might, you know, exclusively, you might take, rather than on numbers of bottles, say, I'm going to take 2 weeks and take Symbiopera and Symbiofort to just kind of get that whole, you know,
That's
gut
exactly what
mechanism.
I'm taking.
Oh, okay.
So I've been at a week and I'm getting some positive effects, but I don't know if you just wait till everything changes, but the 2 week thing sounds,
Yeah. And
and
again,
then,
you don't have to wait till a perceived symptom or something is fixed. What it is, it's a strategy because you can always go back to the same homeopathics. But what I do is maybe take a combination of mucor and aspergillus after a couple weeks because that's going to flush out your body. It's going to help you in a lot of other ways, but it'll also flush out maybe some of the cleanup that the, you know, the Ford and the Candida were doing, the para. So again, the more you learn about them, the more you can develop your own little strategies. And the nice thing is you can never go wrong. And in a drops form, you can never get in trouble because they're gentle enough. They're powerful, but gentle enough where you don't have to worry about unearthing things too much at once, you know?
yeah,
So in future episodes, again, we'll, along with whatever we're discussing, we'll probably, like I think I said, episode 4, we'll get into aspergillus and mucor, but it'll be within a whole larger context. And then in the future, we'll isolate maybe 1 or 2 and just learn them a little bit at a time. But always feel free to ask questions at these sessions as well.
yeah. So if I take it for 2 weeks, because I'm only taking a few drops because they affect me. And then I thought, well, if I stop, but is it like homeopathics where the effects continue on because
Oh, absolutely.
the fungal things are in your body, so they're going to
Yeah.
keep working until they're done, right?
Right. And remember, not only is your body vastly intelligent and understands your intentions through using those, but those little creatures are sentient beings also.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to, you know, you could, this might seem off the wall, but it's really true. They're, in some circles, we call them elementals, and they are just tickled when they perceive that somebody out there is actually paying attention. And
They're
then
listening.
they will start working for you and with you in more pronounced ways, even after you stop taking them.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Abe, are you next?
I believe so.
Well,
I wanted to go back to the ozone therapy and
oh, sure.
say yes, please. Put the settings that you prefer in the co-op chat.
What I'm going to
And
do is I'll share a whole sheet
cool.
that'll have cupping, rectal insufflation, how
I
to
figured.
ozonate water, and because each one has a different setting on the regulator and the flow setting. Because ozone is a precise medicine, and you want to have those 2 combinations perfect, and you also want to have the time perfect because you don't want to. More is definitely not better.
Yeah, I've yeah, I've been in that a bit
Yeah.
and want to learn more. Speaking of wanting to learn more, there's a question from Pamela. Is there a recommended book to learn more about isopathics?
I would say Mari's book. Josh, what's the name of that offhand?
Germs are not our enemy.
Ah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, she's awesome. I'm going to have her back on for a little conversation pretty soon because I think she's one of the most spectacular people out there right now. You know, she's like that next generation that's continuing the work, and
Yeah,
I really appreciate what she's doing.
yeah. Most of the books on isopathics are just protocols.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Mari doesn't, delve into protocol. She tells you what they're all about, which is nice.
Yeah. And the ones I have here in German, so
Yeah.
She's also very, very entertaining.
oh yeah, she's a sweetheart. Okay. Going once, going twice.
Bear, it's Kathy, real quick.
Kathy.
I think that I'm not sure if Brandon had another part of his question or not, which was about using zeolite during breastfeeding.
Okay.
What, like, my sense would be no, but
Mhm.
what do you
I
think
would
about that?
say, if
Not that I'm breastfeeding or anything, but just,
are
curious
you going
about
to break the news to Patrick right now?
it. Right.
So, here's what I would say. If somebody is breastfeeding and they're thinking about doing it and they get a no, then don't do it.
Hmm. Okay.
I'm responding from a pure place of kind of nuts and bolts. Here's what it does. Here's what it doesn't do. You don't have to worry about this or that. But like with anything else, follow your gut. Absolutely. That's the best doctor you've got.
Okay.
The inner
Thanks.
physician, if you'll remember episode 1.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Any more from the peanut gallery there, Abe?
Oh, I just wanted to ask.
Oh,
I
here's
get
somebody.
I get tissue sauce from homeopathy.store.
Oh, Denise.
Yes,
How you doing?
and good. I got a cell salts in liquid alcohol. Is that the liquid form that you can use for the blood
Yeah,
test?
that's fine. Does work just great.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you out camping right now?
I live out here.
Oh, nice. Good for you. I
I
want
I,
to be you.
I got Starlink, so I can go to these meetings.
Oh,
It uses
well,
up a
I'm
lot of battery, though. I mean,
I'm honored.
so
Well, thank
thanks.
you. Okay, thank you. Are we done?
Well, Bear, this is Susan, aka Curious. I just wanted to thank you for all the information tonight. My brain cells are trying to keep up with everything that I've learned. So maybe I'll have some questions next time. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I can't find you on the board there, but I thank you for that comment. And again, the thing we want to do with these is just get the concepts, and then every episode is going to reinforce the same concepts from different perspectives, different systems in the body. So, kind of starts making sense after a while.
Well, a lot of it makes sense right now.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Glad
Yeah,
to hear it.
thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
And thank you for joining us.
So, Bear, one more thing.
Yeah,
So
Pamela.
this blood tincture that we have,
Uh-huh.
and you were talking about the purity of the blood, then the subject of miasms has been coming up a lot in
Uh-huh.
my work for some reason. So I was just wondering how would that affect those things that uh maybe ancestral whatever that you have.
Totally, because sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's what I think. I mean, I have a couple of things, and someone said, "Oh, that's syphilitic miasm," and I think I know who the guy is
Hmm.
that started that one, and he wasn't exactly a very nice person that, according to people, and I
Some of those
kind
homeopaths can be a little cantankerous.
of so can how would this tincture affect, would it clear out some of that or would it
So
just
if you can,
organize it or
mhm. If you
whatever.
consider that everything anybody's ever experienced is a composite of stimulations that provoked certain actions and which always have consequences. So whether that was provoked by some ancestral root race memories or within our own direct lineage or something we acquired, this time around, it doesn't matter because all that we have to clean up is what we kind of fell for ourselves.
Oh.
And when I say fell for, it means because we are indeed in the world of appearances, and not to make light of the intensity of what we're experiencing here. But it's really not what we think. So, yeah, it's just going to, whatever we have to clean up, whatever we put in motion, no matter what provoked it, I guess that's a better way of saying it. It's all the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Abe, you're the maestro of
What am I the maestro of?
the ceremonial maestro here. Are we done?
I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming to
Ah,
the talk because it's awesome. I learned a lot. I'm sure you all did too. I don't know how I ended up the master of ceremonies. It really should be Josh. Uh, so,
well, we'll
you know.
alternate you two.
Oh, good, good. We're interchangeable in many ways. If you want the hard answers and the hard truths, we'll tell it to you straight. That said, I think we're done, Bear. I didn't see any more
Sweet.
questions, no more hands, but I do have a message for Deb to take care of some house cleaning. I
Ah,
did look into somebody to deal with your truck lift and was unable to find anybody that I would recommend. So
oh,
pass
okay.
that on to her. Thank you.
Actually, Garvin gave us some recommends.
Oh,
And
good.
you'll be happy to know that even though this is kind of an off grow year, we've got tons of new Jaugulan coming in, volunteering on one side.
Oh,
So
good.
I will make a special bag of tea for you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Lots of love. We're on our way to Molly's.
Nice. Happy grindage. So everybody, hey, love you a lot. And we wouldn't be anywhere without you guys. So thanks for listening and taking the time. And I really, really appreciate it. It's a special thing for me. So you guys are all awesome.
We
Thank
love
you.
you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Fabulous.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Okay, take
Thank
care.
you.
See you very soon.
Yep.
Woo-hoo! Say hi to Deb.
Absolutely.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Bear.
You're welcome.